Vaults of Terra. My name is Ed, and today we're going to be starting our first video on the Space Marine chapters, and from your selections we're going to be starting with the Black Templars. Okay then, getting started, the Black Templars are a second founding chapter from the Imperial Fists Space Marine chapter. Since that time, the Black Templars have campaigned on a never-ending crusade across the galaxy. Now, their chapter master's name is Helbrecht. Their fortress monastery is not actually a fortress monastery, but a giant battle barge known as the Eternal Crusader. Their colours are black with white shoulder pads, and their speciality is close combat. Now, the strength of the Black Templars is unknown. Because of their multiple crusades, the chapter is thought to have between 5,000 and 6,000 Space Marines, as quoted on the Lexicanum. Now, this is not confirmed, but because of the numerous crusades that the Black Templars are on, it is very possible that there are this number of Black Templars in the galaxy, which is much more than is ordained in the Codex Astartes, drafted by Robert Gulliman. Now, their battle cry is no pity, no remorse, no fear, and from what I'm about to tell you, you're going to realise why it is that. Now, the history of the Black Templar starts during the Horus Heresy. Now, during Horus's attack on the Imperial Palace, the Imperial Fist Primarch, Rorgul Dorn, chose his first captain, Sigismund, as the Emperor's champion, and he was given the best armour and weapons. Sigismund challenged the traitorous leaders of the opposing army to single combat and won every single time, making him one of the most powerful warriors on the battlefield who was not a Primarch. After the heresy, the Primarch of the Ultramarines ordered the breakdown of the Space Marine legions into the chapters that we see today. Although Rorgul Dorn disagreed, almost leading to civil war amongst the surviving legions, Astartes, he eventually capitulated, leading to a second founding of the Imperial Fists, and that led inexorably to the birth of the Black Templars. Sigismund led the most zealous of the Imperial Fists with him to found the Black Templars and became their first High Marshal, which is the equivalent of a chapter master in other chapters. Sigismund swore an oath upon leaving Terra. He and his chapter would prove their loyalty, but would never rest in their duties against the enemies of the Emperor. Every High Marshal after him has renewed the oath, and as such, the Black Templars' crusade has continued for over 10,000 years, this longest crusade in Space Marine history, and is possibly one of the longest crusades in Imperial history. Because of this crusade, Black Templars have no permanent homeworld. Instead, living on their crusade fleets using planets they conquer to establish chapter keeps, which are used for recruitment and staging areas in other crusades if they have to double back on themselves. Now, the organisation of the Black Templars is not like the other Codex chapters out there. Most of the time they formed into fighting companies. Individual squads and specialists such as tech marines or apothecaries will fight side by side out of familiarity and comradeship rather than any imposed organisation. Now, the actual hierarchy of the Black Templars goes like this. They have a High Marshal, who is the equivalent to a chapter master in other Space Marine chapters. They then have a Marshal, who leads an individual Black Templars crusade. After that, a Castellan is a second in command to the Marshal of the crusade, and is in command of a fighting company of the respective crusade. There is also an Emperor's champion, which is selected on eve of battle just as Sigismund. The champion is an initiate, who will have experience and a vision of the Emperor. Then there are the Sword Brethren, who are the equivalent of a veteran sergeant in other chapters. Next to the Initiates, who are the standard battle brothers of a fighting company and can be seen on most Black Templar battlefronts. Next up are the Neophytes, and these are the lowest members of the Black Templars, as they are new recruits. Unlike other Codex chapters, these recruits are not organised into a single scout company. Instead, each Neophyte joins a fighting company as the apprentice to a senior Initiate. While they do not have a dedicated scout company, the Neophytes will fulfil this role, beginning their service with lighter armour and weapons, and then the Initiates. Now, their doctrine and adherence to the Codex Astartes is very different to that of most Space Marine chapters. Black Templars emphasise on close combat prowess and honour in such situations. As such, they can often be seen charging into suicidal situations to avenge fallen comrades. These tactics appear to be reckless, but their effectiveness is undeniable. By their doctrine, the Black Templars abhor the traitor, the alien, and the mutant. The last category includes Psychers, with the result that the Black Templars are one of the few Space Marine chapters that exclude librarians, seeing them as a potential source of corruption in the midst of battle. The Black Templars also designed a Land Raider Crusader, which I have mentioned in my Space Marine Vehicles video, and the first chapter to make use of it in battle, which has shown their inexorable intelligence and their willingness to defy standard doctrine in order to be effective in battle. The Black Templars do defy the Codex doctrine that states that chapter may only have 1,000 battle brothers, as I mentioned previously. This is because of their dividing nature, being spread out over multiple crusades. However, it has been estimated that there may be several thousand Black Templar companies spread out around the galaxy. As I said, there is no firm number. Of course, the Lexicanum quotes a certain number, but until Games Workshop says otherwise, we're saying roughly around 5,000 to 6,000. Now, the combat doctrine of the Black Templars, as I've mentioned before, is to continue the fighting style of their first High Marshal, preferring close combat over ranged warfare. A Crusade will focus on two main tactics. The first is an orbital assault, where the Crusade will use drop pods and Thunderhawk to attack after an orbital bombardment. Then the Templars will land their heavy armour and launch an armoured spearhead against the weakest link in the enemy's defences. As part of their dedication to the Emperor and their crusade, Black Templars will swear an oath of faith and protection, similar to the oaths of the moment sworn by Space Marine legions during the Great Crusade. These will be affixed to the Space Marine's armour and state the Space Marine's intentions, which are usually to defeat their enemy or die honourably in battle. Now, last I'm just going to talk about the Crusade fleets. Unlike most chapters, as I mentioned before, the Black Templars do not have a homeworld. Eschewing the idea of one, they opt to live aboard their Crusade fleets. These vary in size and are made up of dozens of battle barges, strike cruisers and other craft such as training vessels and huge forward ships. Given the fleet-based nature, the Black Templars are rarely assembled as a single chapter, and every Crusade is responsible for recruiting as well as training new neophytes. The High Marshal himself has his own personal battle barge, the Eternal Crusader, a vessel that is a spiritual home of the chapter and contains its most sacred relics. It has been expanded and retrofitted many times, and can currently hold twice as many Space Marines as a normal battle barge. Now, this flexible and mobile nature of the Black Templars has allowed them to be successful in their crusades for the last 10,000 years, and is proof that their zealotry is not in vain, and that they are one of the most dedicated chapters in the entire Imperium to bringing about the original intention of the Emperor, that is, uniting the entire galaxy under the rule of the Imperium. Well, that's everything I've got to say on the Black Templars today. In the future I might be following up with a few videos relating to some of the specific characters in the Space Marines chapters, including characters in the Black Templars. Again, if you have any specific characters you want to see in the videos, do not hesitate to get in contact, either in the comments below or attached to an email or anything like that. Then I will certainly take it all into account. Next up will be our Space Marine biology video, returning to the implantation of a Space Marine's gene seed. So I look forward to seeing you there, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. See you next time on the Vaults of Terra.